The sun dipped low over the jagged cliffs of Dragonhold, casting long shadows across the winding pathways that twisted and turned through the ancient stone structures. The air grew thick with anticipation as a lone figure staggered through the narrow streets, his breaths coming in ragged gasps. The veteran, a human named Aric, his clothes torn and bloodied from recent combat, clutched at the hilt of his sword, his movements stiff and hesitant. Stay with me," he whispered to the air, his eyes scanning the surroundings frantically for any sign of danger. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled violently, and a deep roar echoed through the canyon, shaking the very foundations of the city. Aric's grip tightened around his sword as he spotted two figures emerging from the shadows, a towering dragon, its scales shimmering with an iridescent sheen, and a smaller figure clad in robes of deep purple. The dragon's wings spread wide, the tips of its wings nearly touching the ground as it prepared to take flight. Its powerful legs shifted, preparing for a leap that would send it soaring into the skies. The human veteran's heart hammered in his chest as he realized with mounting dread that something was terribly wrong. This dragon was not meant to move. It should have been immobile, bound by ancient magic and tradition to remain in its appointed place within the city. Why are you moving?" the smaller figure beside the dragon asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and disbelief. Her robes billowed around her, revealing intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change with every word she spoke. The woman was clearly a diplomat, her face pale and strained, eyes darting nervously between Aric and the dragon. Aric's instincts kicked in without hesitation. He unsheathed his sword and took a defensive stance, ready to face whatever threat presented itself. "Who are you?" he demanded, voice sharp and demanding. The diplomat stepped back slightly, hands raised in a gesture of peace, though her eyes remained fixed on the dragon. I am Melia," she stammered, clearly not expecting such a hostile reaction. "A representative from the human realm. We've come to discuss peace negotiations." Her gaze flickered between Aric and the dragon, her voice wavering as she tried to assert herself amidst the chaos. "Then why is this dragon?" Aric started, his eyes narrowing as he searched for answers in the diplomat's face. But before Melia could respond, the dragon let out another roar, more desperate this time, its body shifting and trembling with effort. Its wings fluttered weakly, unable to support its massive frame off the ground. "No, please, you mustn't try," Melia pleaded, her voice filled with desperation. She reached out towards the dragon, her hand hovering mere inches from its side. "You are paralyzed. You cannot fly." The tension in the air thickened, each heartbeat a drumroll of impending disaster. Aric watched, muscles taut, as Melia's eyes filled with unshed tears. The diplomat's fingers trembled, but she pressed forward, her desperation driving her closer to the dragon despite the clear risks. "Tell me, please," she whispered, voice barely audible over the roar of the city in the background. "Why are you trying?" The dragon let out a soft, pained whine, its wings drooping limply as if it had given up all hope. Its eyes, though still fierce and intelligent, showed clear signs of distress and confusion, reflecting the diplomat's agony. "Why can't you fly?" Aric echoed her question, his mind racing through the implications. Was there a threat they didn't know about? Something worse than mere paralysis? The dragon's next movement was a jolt of adrenaline. It tried to push itself up, failing miserably as its legs buckled under its own weight. "What is happening here?" Aric demanded again, this time more firmly, his sword arm tightening. Melia's eyes met his, and for a moment they held an unspoken understanding. Whatever was going on, it transcended their usual conflicts and needed immediate attention. "This isn't right, Melia," he muttered, her voice shaky but resolute. "This is a disaster of unimaginable proportions." The ground beneath Aric's feet shuddered once more, this time not from the dragon's attempts to move, but from something else, a deep, ominous rumble that suggested danger was closing in. He didn't need to see the sky to know that dark clouds were gathering, an unseen storm was brewing, and it would soon rain fire and destruction upon Dragonhold. Melia's eyes widened, a sudden realization dawning across her face. "It's not just paralysis," she gasped, voice barely audible. "The magic. Something has happened to the magic." Aric's mind reeled as he tried to process her words. The paralysis was supposed to be absolute, unbreakable. How could it have failed? Before either of them could react further, a piercing scream cut through the iris sound that froze Aric and Melia in their tracks. It was not human or dragon, it was something else. An alien voice that sent shivers down their spines. The wind picked up, swirling around them with increasing force, carrying with it whispers of despair and chaos. In the distance, a flash of red light streaked across the sky, followed by an explosion of energy. The dragon's wings twitched again, but this time with a newfound urgency, as if sensing the encroaching peril. Melia's eyes darted wildly, searching for any sign of what was happening. "We need to get out of here," she said urgently, turning to face Aric. "There's not much time." But Aric knew that wasn't an option. He couldn't just abandon the dragon to whatever horrors were brewing in the darkness. The diplomat's words echoed in his mind: magic failure, disaster imminent. There was no time for retreat. "What can we do?" he asked desperately, glancing back at the dragon, which seemed more determined now than ever. Melia's eyes hardened with resolve. "We need to find a way to reverse the paralysis," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "But first, we have to figure out what's causing it." Aric nodded, his sword clutched tightly. "Let's move," he ordered, taking a step towards the dragon. The diplomat hesitated only momentarily before following him, her footsteps echoing on the stone as they pressed forward into the gathering storm. The wind howled louder, and the sky darkened further, leaving no doubt that whatever was coming would be cataclysmic. But amidst the chaos, two unlikely allies were forming a plan, each knowing full well the stakes were higher than ever before. Aric and Melia had walked into a nightmare, but now they faced an even darker reality, one where failure meant not just death, but disaster on an unimaginable scale. They had no choice but to press forward, hoping against hope that there was still a way to save their world from the brink of destruction. The city of Dragonhold was about to face its greatest challenge yet, and it would be up to them to see if any hope remained. The ground beneath their feet continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Aric's heart pounded in his chest, every step a challenge against the encroaching darkness that threatened to swallow everything. The diplomat's breath caught in her throat, each word she spoke filled with a desperate determination. "We need to act quickly," Melia said, her voice steady but strained. "The paralysis is just the tip of the iceberg." Aric's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. "Agreed, but we need to know more about this magic first." Just then, another scream pierced the air. Closer now. The two turned towards the source, their hearts skipping a beat as they realized they weren't alone in this battle. The dragon's wings fluttered again, but there was a new determination in its movement. "Wait," Melia said, her eyes narrowing. "That wasn't just any scream." Aric tensed, his hand tightening around his sword hilt. "What do you mean?" Melia stepped closer to the dragon, peering into its eyes with an intensity that made Aric take a step back. The dragon's eyes, once fierce and commanding, now held a flicker of something else, a recognition, a plea for help. "We need to figure out what's happening," Melia said, her voice urgent. "We can't just leave." Aric nodded grimly. "Let's move," he said, turning towards the dragon. "But we need to be careful. Whatever is causing this might be watching us." Melia nodded in agreement, her eyes locked on the dragon. They moved closer, the ground still trembling beneath them as they approached. The dragon's wings twitched again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. "We can't just let it happen," Melia he said, her voice breaking slightly. We have to try. Aric's grip tightened around his sword, his mind racing through potential solutions. Right, he said, more to himself than anyone else. Let's get this done. The wind picked up again, swirling around them in a maelstrom of fear and uncertainty. In the distance, another flash of red light cut through the sky, followed by an explosion that sent debris raining down upon them. The dragon's wings flared once more, a silent plea for help. We need to know what's causing this, Melia, he said, her voice steady but filled with determination. We can't just leave it like this. Aric nodded, his mind racing. All right, he said, taking a deep breath. Let's find out. The diplomat and the veteran pressed forward, each step a challenge against the encroaching darkness. The ground beneath them continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Suddenly, another scream echoed through the canyon, this time from directly above them. They both looked up, their eyes narrowing as they searched for the source. Aric's hand tightened around his sword hilt, ready to act at a moment's notice. What is that, Melia? He asked, her voice breaking slightly. Aric's gaze swept over the surroundings, trying to spot any signs of movement. I don't know, he said, his voice tight with tension. But whatever it is, it's close. The diplomat's eyes darted around nervously as she tried to spot the source of the scream. We need to be careful, she said, her voice low and urgent. Aric nodded grimly, his mind racing through potential threats. Agreed, he said, turning towards the dragon. But we can't just leave it here either. Melia's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's move, she said, stepping closer to the dragon. Its wings flared again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. We need to know what's causing this, Melia, he said, her voice steady but filled with determination. We can't just leave it like this. Aric nodded, his mind racing. All right, he said, taking a deep breath. Let's find out. The diplomat and the veteran pressed forward, each step a challenge against the encroaching darkness. The ground beneath them continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Suddenly, another scream echoed through the canyon, this time from directly above them. They both looked up, their eyes narrowing as they searched for the source. Aric's hand tightened around his sword hilt, ready to act at a moment's notice. What is that, Melia? He asked, her voice breaking slightly. Aric's gaze swept over the surroundings, trying to spot any signs of movement. I don't know, he said, his voice tight with tension. But whatever it is, it's close. The diplomat's eyes darted around nervously as she tried to spot the source of the scream. We need to be careful, she said, her voice low and urgent. Aric nodded grimly, his mind racing through potential threats. Agreed, he said, turning towards the dragon. But we can't just leave it here either. Melia's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's move, she said, stepping closer to the dragon. Its wings flared again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. We need to know what's causing this, Melia, he said, her voice steady but filled with determination. We can't just leave it like this. Aric nodded, his mind racing. All right, he said, taking a deep breath. Let's find out. The diplomat and the veteran pressed forward, each step a challenge against the encroaching darkness. The ground beneath them continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Suddenly, another scream echoed through the canyon, this time from directly above them. They both looked up, their eyes narrowing as they searched for the source. Aric's hand tightened around his sword hilt, ready to act at a moment's notice. What is that, Melia? He asked, her voice breaking slightly. Aric's gaze swept over the surroundings, trying to spot any signs of movement. I don't know, he said, his voice tight with tension. But whatever it is, it's close. The diplomat's eyes darted around nervously as she tried to spot the source of the scream. We need to be careful, she said, her voice low and urgent. Aric nodded grimly, his mind racing through potential threats. Agreed, he said, turning towards the dragon. But we can't just leave it here either. Melia's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's move, she said, stepping closer to the dragon. Its wings flared again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. We need to know what's causing this, Melia said, her voice steady but filled with determination. We can't just leave it like this. Aric nodded, his mind racing. All right, he said, taking a deep breath. Let's find out. The diplomat and the veteran pressed forward, each step a challenge against the encroaching darkness. The ground beneath them continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Suddenly, another scream echoed through the canyon, this time from directly above them. They both looked up, their eyes narrowing as they searched for the source. Aric's hand tightened around his sword hilt, ready to act at a moment's notice. What is that, Melia asked, her voice breaking slightly. Aric's gaze swept over the surroundings, trying to spot any signs of movement. I don't know, he said, his voice tight with tension. But whatever it is, it's close. The diplomat's eyes darted around nervously as she tried to spot the source of the scream. We need to be careful, she said, her voice low and urgent. Aric nodded grimly, his mind racing through potential threats. Agreed, he said, turning towards the dragon. But we can't just leave it here either. Melia's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's move, she said, stepping closer to the dragon. Its wings flared again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. We need to know what's causing this, Melia said, her voice steady but filled with determination. We can't just leave it like this. Aric nodded, his mind racing. All right, he said, taking a deep breath. Let's find out. The diplomat and the veteran pressed forward, each step a challenge against the encroaching darkness. The ground beneath them continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Suddenly, another scream echoed through the canyon, this time from directly above them. They both looked up, their eyes narrowing as they searched for the source. Aric's hand tightened around his sword hilt, ready to act at a moment's notice. What is that, Melia asked, her voice breaking slightly. Aric's gaze swept over the surroundings, trying to spot any signs of movement. I don't know, he said, his voice tight with tension. But whatever it is, it's close. The diplomat's eyes darted around nervously as she tried to spot the source of the scream. We need to be careful, she said, her voice low and urgent. Aric nodded grimly, his mind racing through potential threats. Agreed, he said, turning towards the dragon. But we can't just leave it here either. Melia's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's move, she said, stepping closer to the dragon. Its wings flared again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. We need to know what's causing this, Melia said, her voice steady but filled with determination. We can't just leave it like this. Aric nodded, his mind racing. All right, he said, taking a deep breath. Let's find out. The diplomat and the veteran pressed forward, each step a challenge against the encroaching darkness. The ground beneath them continued to tremble as they approached the dragon, the air thick with dread and urgency. Suddenly, another scream echoed through the canyon, this time from directly above them. They both looked up, their eyes narrowing as they searched for the source. Aric's hand tightened around his sword hilt, ready to act at a moment's notice. What is that, Melia asked, her voice breaking slightly. Aric's gaze swept over the surroundings, trying to spot any signs of movement. I don't know, he said, his voice tight with tension. But whatever it is, it's close. The diplomat's eyes darted around nervously as she tried to spot the source of the scream. We need to be careful, she said, her voice low and urgent. Aric nodded grimly, his mind racing through potential threats. Agreed, he said, turning towards the dragon. But we can't just leave it here either. Melia's eyes met his, a silent understanding passing between them. Let's move, she said, stepping closer to the dragon. Its wings flared again, this time with a sense of urgency that had not been there before. "We need to know what's causing this, Melia," he said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We can't just leave it like this." Aric nodded, his mind. "We can't just leave it like this," Alex muttered, staring at the smoldering ruins of the once glorious city. The air was thick with smoke and the stench of burning flesh. He turned to the figure standing beside him, a woman whose ethereal beauty belied her formidable strength. "Karina, we need to find out who's behind this." Karina's eyes flared with an inner fire as she looked at Alex, her dragon wings fluttering slightly. "I agree. We must not allow these attacks to continue unchecked." "Right. Let's start by questioning survivors." Alex scanned the area, spotting a group of huddled refugees nearby. He approached them, Karina at his side. The survivors stared in terror as they neared, their eyes shifting back and forth between Alex and Karina. "Please," Alex said gently, "we're trying to help." "Do you know who attacked your city?" A shiver ran through the crowd. "They called themselves the Council." A man spoke up, his voice trembling. "Said they wanted the city for their own." "What did they look like?" Alex asked. "Ugly things, not human." And the man hesitated, glancing at Karina with unease. "Dragon-like, but twisted, with dark wings and cruel eyes." Karina's wings tightened, her grip on Alex tightening as she struggled to contain a surge of rage. "We will find them," Alex said, placing a hand on Karina's arm. "And we'll stop them." They needed to move fast, knowing the Council would be waiting for them somewhere, hidden in the shadows. As they returned to their Basia, secluded cave system, Karina's mood darkened further. "Karina, stay calm," Alex warned as she stormed ahead, her wings flaring. "We'll get through this. They will not escape justice." Karina snapped, spinning to face him. "I will not allow this city and its people to suffer more at the hands of those who seek only to destroy." Alex grabbed her shoulders, looking directly into her eyes. "I know how you feel, but we need to think this through, come up with a plan." "I do not require your pity, Alex," Karina growled, pulling away from him. "I am strong enough to fight and protect those who cannot do so themselves." "Nobody's saying you aren't," Alex said softly, placing his hands on her face. "But we have to be strategic about this. We can't just rush in blind." Her expression softened slightly as she gazed at him, the intensity of her eyes piercing through his resolve. "Very well, we will proceed with caution," she conceded, though the storm brewing within her remained unquelled. The pair set out, traversing the dark wilderness, guided by Karina's intuitive senses and Alex's knowledge of human technology. They soon arrived at an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of a nearby city. It was a likely meeting place for the Council, given its isolation. Inside, they found signs of a recent gathering, tables with scorched marks from heated debates, discarded uniforms of dark figures. "They are here," Alex said quietly. "This is where we start." They made their way deeper into the warehouse, weapons drawn, but eyes open to any sign of movement. Shadows flickered on the walls as they neared a room at the center, the sound of voices drifting out. Karina's wings spread wider, her muscles tensing for a fight. "Open the door," Alex whispered, nodding to Karina. She nodded back and carefully pushed the door open, stepping inside with Alex close behind. The room was filled with the Council members, their hideous faces contorting in shock as they saw Karina and Alex. "You dare intrude?" one of them sneered, his voice distorted by an unnatural resonance. "We dare to stop you," Alex replied coolly, his hand on the hilt of his sword. "Why do you attack this city?" The leader laughed, a sound devoid of warmth or humor. "We seek to cleanse the world of imperfections. You are among them." Karina's eyes burned with fire. "You are the imperfection," she spat, her wings flaring. "Be careful what you wish for," the leader said mockingly. "Join us, and you will be cleansed. Refuse, and we will make an example of you." Alex shared a look with Karina, understanding dawning. "We won't let you win," he vowed. The Council members moved to attack, but before they could act, another presence filled the room. A figure stepped out from the shadow staller, more imposing than anyone there. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and it spoke in a voice that reverberated through the warehouse. "Enough," it boomed. "You have failed. The city will be cleansed another day." The council members faltered, looking to their supposed leader for a direction. The figure seemed to grow even more ominous as it turned to face Alex and Karina. "You are a foolish couple," it sneered. "Do you think you can defeat me?" Karina's wings spread wide, her eyes locked onto the figure with an unflinching determination. "We will try." The figure smirked. "Then you shall see the power of what lies ahead." With that, the room lit up in a blinding flash as the figure vanished, leaving behind a palpable chill. "What just happened?" Alex asked, his grip tightening on his sword. "The real battle has only begun," Karina said grimly, her wings folding protectively around them both. "We must be ready for what comes next." As they stepped out into the night, the city's skyline shimmered in the distance, a beacon of hope and despair intertwined. They had the daunting task ahead of uncovering the truth about the council and the mysterious figure that now seemed to pull the strings. The city waited, its fate hanging in the balance, with Alex and Karina as its only hope. The journey back to their cave was fraught with new tensions. Every step felt heavier, every breath laden with uncertainty. But in each other's presence, they found a fleeting moment of solace. The intimacy of shared struggle brought them closer, despite the escalating danger. "Karina, tell me more about your people," Alex said as they rested by a fire one night. "Your dragon kin." Her eyes flickered with a mix of sadness and pride. "My kind once roamed freely across this land, embodying both light and shadow. We were protectors, but also seekers of balance. But now," she sighed, looking to the stars, "now we are hunted, misunderstood, forced into hiding." Alex's grip tightened around her hand. "But you're not like them. You don't want to hurt anyone. Yet, I am part of a legacy that has been twisted," she said softly, her wings twitching in discomfort. "I fear for what my people have become." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of an urgent message from a group of survivors in the city. Reports of strange, shadowy figures terrorizing its streets once more. Alex and Karina exchanged looks. The time to act was now. They returned to the city's outskirts, this time with a clearer goal: infiltrate the council's inner sanctum and uncover their true motives. Their path led them through a labyrinthine network of underground tunnels, each passageway illuminated by the flickering glow of neon lights that pulsed with an eerie rhythm. Deep within these tunnels, they discovered a hidden chamber where dark rituals were being performed. Symbols etched into stone walls told tales of an ancient pact between human and non-human entity. Yes, a pact corrupted by the council's greed. Alex felt a cold shiver run through him as he studied the markings. "Karina, look at this," he said, pointing to the most prominent symbol, a figure with wings spreading wide in both darkness and light, twisted into a grotesque form. "This isn't just about cleansing, it's about something more sinister." Her eyes narrowed as she read the inscriptions aloud, her voice trembling slightly. "To break the chains that bind, to forge anew in shadow and light. They plan to summon something far beyond their control." "Whatever it is," Alex said grimly, "we have to stop it before it's too late." They left the chamber cautiously, their minds racing with the implications of what they had uncovered. As they emerged back into daylight, an unexpected complication loomed large. Their base was under attack. Smoke billowed from the entrance to their cave network as they raced towards it. Chaos erupted around them. Alien drones and twisted human soldiers swarmed like a horde of nightmarish insects. Alex and Karina fought their way through, each blow amplifying the sense of urgency and danger. In the heart of the battle, a familiar figure appeared. The council's leader stood amidst the fray, his twisted face glowing with sinister triumph. "So you have found the truth?" he hissed, pointing to the base in flames. "But it is too late." "Not if we stop you here and now," Alex countered, lunging forward to engage the leader. Karina soared into the sky, her wings casting a shadow over the battlefield as she unleashed devastating fireballs at the enemy lines. The ground shook with each impact, creating chasms that swallowed drones whole. Despite their valiant efforts, the tide of battle seemed insurmountable. More soldiers poured in from hidden tunnels, overwhelming Alec's and Karina's defenses. Desperation gnawed at them as they fought on, each breath a testament to their resolve. Yet, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, an unexpected ally appeared, the Dragon Council member, whose voice had echoed through the warehouse. It approached, its presence overshadowing even the Council's formidable leader. "You have interfered far enough," it growled, its eyes glowing with otherworldly light. "The time for cleansing is now." Alex and Karina exchanged a glance. This was the moment they had feared, the true source of their battle. The figure turned to face them, its imposing form daunting, but somehow familiar. "Do not fear what is coming," it intoned, addressing them with a depth that transcended mere voice. "For you are part of this legacy as well." The world around them seemed to shift as the words resonated, an unspoken connection forming between Alex and Karina, and this enigmatic figure from their nightmares. The ground began to tremble violently, fissures splitting the earth as dark energy surged forth. "We must act," the figure said, its voice now imbued with a sense of urgency. "You will witness the final cleansing." The council's leader laughed maniacally, his twisted form glimmering with a dark aura. "You cannot stop it now," he gloated. "The chains have broken, and balance will be restored by my hand." But Alex saw something in Karina's eyes, a flicker of understanding, a recognition that defied the chaos around them. She stepped forward, her wings outstretched, radiating both light and shadow. "Karina," Alex called, his voice laced with confusion and hope. "What are you doing?" She turned to face him, her expression resolute. "This is our destiny," she said softly, "to face the darkness and find the balance." With a final, powerful cry, Karina unleashed an explosion of light and shadow that engulfed the battlefield, shattering the dark rituals performed by the council. The earth trembled as the energy rippled outward, tearing apart the distorted forms of the alien drones and twisted soldiers. The figure from their nightmares stood before them, its imposing form shifting, transforming into something ethereal yet grounded in reality. "You have chosen the path," it said to Alex and Karina, its voice now harmonious with an ancient wisdom. "Together, you hold the key to restoring balance." Alex's heart pounded as he grasped the implications, the weight of the world resting upon him and Karina's shoulders. They stood amidst the ruins of their base, the battle still raging in the distance, but the tide shifting towards a new beginning. "We will face this," Alex vowed, his voice steady despite the turmoil within. "For the city, for our people, for balance." Karina nodded, her wings folding protectively around them both. "And together we shall restore what has been lost," she echoed, her eyes ablaze with determination and resolve. As they prepared to confront the final challenge, the darkness looming ever larger, their bond deepened, a testament to the strength found in unity against impossible odds. The battle for balance had only just begun, but Alex and Karina were ready to face whatever lay ahead, knowing that with each other, nothing could stand against them. The tension rose as they stepped into the final confrontation, the air thick with anticipation and danger. The council's leader, his twisted form still towering over them, sneered cruelly. "You are fools to think you can defeat me," he spat. "This is the dawn of a new age where imperfections will be eradicated." Alex and Karina exchanged a look, their resolve unshaken. "We'll show you the true meaning of balance," Alex said firmly. The leader lunged forward, his movements quick and deadly. Alex blocked his attacks, each clash echoing through the battlefield. Meanwhile, Karina soared above, striking with precise fireballs that dissolved into rain as they hit the ground. Despite their combined efforts, the council's forces seemed endless, waves of twisted soldiers and alien drones pouring in from every direction. Each strike felt like a desperate struggle against an unyielding tide. Yet amidst the chaos, an unexpected ally appeared, a group of survivors, armed and ready to fight alongside Alex and Karina. Their presence brought a renewed surge of hope, but also a stark realization the battle was far from over. "We can't just fight," one of the survivors shouted as they joined the fray. "We need a plan," agreed Alex said, turning to Karina. "We need to cut off their supply lines, hit them where they are weakest." Karina nodded, her wings spreading wide as she surveyed the battlefield from above. "I'll direct your movements," she called down to the survivors. "Follow my lead." Together, they maneuvered through the chaos, striking with precision and purpose. Alex targeted the twisted soldiers, each strike more calculated than the last. Karina's fireballs rained down with deadly accuracy, hitting strategic points that weakened the enemy's defenses. As the night wore on, a pattern began to emerge. The council's leader was retreating, drawing them towards an unknown destination. "Where is he leading us?" Alex asked as they followed. "I sense it," Karina replied, her wings flaring with renewed intensity. "He's heading towards the ancient ruins, perhaps seeking something there." The ruins loomed ahead, their crumbling pillars and eerie silence adding to the tension. The council's leader stood at its entrance, waiting for them, his face twisted in a manic grin as he pointed deep within. "Go inside," he sneered. "See what lies at the heart of this city's destruction." Reluctantly, Alex and Karina led their forces into the ruins. The path was dark and treacherous, filled with traps and illusions designed to disorient them. But they pressed on, guided by their resolve and Karina's keen senses. Deep within the ruins, a chamber shone with an unnatural light, source of the destruction, the heart of the council's corruption. At its center stood a pedestal with an ancient artifact glowing with dark energy, a crystal orb pulsating with the essence of imbalance. "We must destroy it," Alex said, his voice steady despite the weight of the decision. Karina nodded, her wings spreading wide in preparation for the battle ahead. "But we must be careful," she warned. "It may be guarded." They approached cautiously, weapons drawn. As they neared, a figure emerged from the shadows, Dragon Council member they had encountered before, its form now more ethereal than ever. "Do not fear the darkness," it intoned, its voice resonating through the chamber, "for within lies the key to true balance." Alex and Karina exchanged glances, understanding dawning in their eyes. The figure stepped forward, its presence overshadowing even the oppressive weight of the ruins. "You must make a choice," it said, addressing Alex directly, "to embrace the light, or to accept the darkness that lies within." Alex's grip tightened on his sword. "What does that mean?" "It means that balance is not about eradicating one force in favor of the other," the figure explained. "It is about accepting both and finding harmony." Karina stepped forward, her wings folding protectively around Alex. "We will find this balance," she vowed. Together, the figure nodded, its presence shifting as it prepared to guide them through the final challenge. "Proceed," it intoned, its voice now a harmonious blend of ancient wisdom. Alex and Karina moved towards the crystal orb, each step filled with purpose and determination. The guardian appeared, an amalgamation of human and dragon forms, its eyes glowing with an intense light that mirrored their own resolve. "Face your destiny," it said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "Embrace both sides." Karina and Alex exchanged a look of understanding, drawing their weapons with a sense of inevitability. The guardian lunged forward, its movements swift and deadly, but Alex and Karina were ready. Each strike met with calculated precision, each parry guided by an unspoken connection. The battle raged on, the guardian's form shifting as it tested their limits. Each blow seemed to tear at their resolve, but they held firm, driven by a deeper understanding of balance. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Alex landed the final strike, high sword piercing through the guardian's heart. As the guardian faded into nothingness, the chamber shook violently, the dark entered. Why within the crystal orb fluctuating wildly? Now, Alex shouted to Karina, his voice filled with urgency. The artifact must be destroyed. Karina nodded, her wings spreading wide as she unleashed a powerful fireball. The orb glowed brighter as it absorbed the impact, its pulsating energy intensifying. For a moment, it seemed to resist, but then a crack appeared, a fissure that spread rapidly across its surface. With a final cry of determination, Karina unleashed one last, powerful blast, shattering the orb into 1,000 pieces. Dark energy dissipated, leaving behind an eerie calm. "We did it," Alex said, his voice laced with relief and exhaustion. Karina's wings folded around them protectively as she gazed at Alex with a sense of profound connection. "Together, we have restored balance," she said softly. Yet, even as they stood amidst the ruins of their victory, a new challenge loomed. The council's leader emerged from the shadows, his form twisted in defiance. "This is far from over," he spat, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "The imbalance will return." Alex and Karina exchanged a look of resolve. "Well, face it when it comes," Alex said firmly. Karina nodded, her wings flaring with renewed intensity. "But for now, we rest," she added, a sense of weariness, but also determination in her voice. As they exited the ruins and returned to the city, the survivors greeted them with cheers and relief. The streets were still scarred from the battle, but hope lingered, a testament to their struggle. Back at their base, Alex and Karina shared a moment of quiet reflection by the firelight. "What comes next?" Alex asked, his voice tinged with uncertainty. "We face it," Karina replied, her eyes gleaming with an unyielding resolve. Together, the night grew darker outside, but within, a sense of unity and strength burned bright, a reminder that in every struggle lies the potential for balance, and in every challenge, the chance to rise stronger than before. As dawn broke, Alex and Karina stood on the city's edge, watching the first rays of sunlight paint the sky in hues of gold and orange. The destruction around them was a stark reminder of the battles fought, but also a testament to their resilience. "Today is a new beginning," Alex said softly, his voice steady despite the weight of what lay ahead. Karina nodded, her wings folding protectively around him. "It is," she agreed, "but it is only the start." The challenges were far from over. The council's legacy threatened to rise again, and the shadows of imbalance lingered in every corner of their world. Yet in each other's presence, Alex and Karina found strength born not just of unity, but of a deeper connection forged through shared struggle. As they prepared for whatever lay ahead, their bond deepened, a testament to the resilience that comes from facing darkness together. The path forward was fraught with danger, but it was also filled with the promise of balance and the hope that in every challenge they would rise stronger than before. The city waited, its fate entwined with Alex and Karina's journey, a reminder that true strength lies not just in victory over enemies, but in the bonds forged through adversity. The road ahead was uncertain, but as they turned to face it together, their resolve was unbreakable. The road ahead was uncertain, but as they turned to face it together, their resolve was unbreakable. The dragon's scales gleamed in the fading light, her wings outstretched and ready to take them beyond the horizon. They were a mismatched pair, bound by an enigmatic fate that had thrust them into each other's lives when all else seemed lost. Lena, the human girl, stood beside her draconic partner, her grip on the saddle tight and reassuring. She felt the dragon's warmth radiating through the fabric beneath her, and for a moment, she wished they could stay there, cocooned in the tranquility of their shared bond. But duty called, and with a deep breath, she stepped into the wind, feeling it tug at her hair as she moved to stand before the dragon's head. "Ready?" Lena asked, her voice steady but tinged with an underlying uncertainty that she masked beneath a veneer of strength. The dragon, whose name was Selenitho Lena, suspected it might mean something different to her than a mere name nuzzled gently at Lena's hand. Her breath, warm and tingling against Lena's skin, was both comforting and unsettling. "Ready," she replied telepathically, the word rolling through Lena's mind like a quiet promise. Lena nodded, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and fear. She wasn't sure if Selene could understand the complexity of these emotions, but Lena hoped that the essence of them, her determination to protect and cherish the bond they shared, would be enough. With a sudden burst of wind, Selene took flight, her wings powerful and graceful as she ascended towards the night sky. Lena clung to her back, feeling the earth fall away beneath them until all that was left was the vast expanse of the heavens. The stars above seemed closer now, as if they too were part of their journey, guiding them through the darkness. As they soared, Lena couldn't help but marvel at the transformation that had taken place in Selene since she had first met her in the depths of the forest. Once a creature of solitude and fear, Selene had come to find solace in Lena's presence. Lena thought back to their earliest days together, when Selene had been merely a shadow among the trees, a dragon living in isolation and pain after the death of her kind. "Tell me again," Lena whispered as they flew, the wind carrying her voice, but also pulling at her hair as if to keep them connected, "why we're going to this place." Selene's answer was soft and filled with a sense of purpose that seemed almost otherworldly. "A place of great power, where we must go to heal what can be healed, and to fight." Lena nodded, the image of that place known as the Nexus haunting her thoughts. It was a site of ancient magic, where the convergence of energy held the potential to mend the fabric of their reality or to rend it further. They had no choice but to go there. It was the only path to stopping a looming threat from consuming everything they knew and loved. The flight was long, each moment bringing them closer to an uncertain fate. Selene's wings strained as she navigated the currents of air, her body a magnificent engine of strength and resilience. Lena watched her in awe, knowing that without this dragon's resolve, their journey would never have begun. It was not just courage that sustained them, but a mutual understanding, a bond deeper than any mere alliance or partnership. As the dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the land below, they neared the Nexus. The sight loomed before them in all its foreboding majesty, a place of both creation and destruction. Selene's wings fluttered once, twice, as if she were catching her breath, preparing for the battles that lay ahead. Lena's heart raced with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This was the culmination of their journey, the test they had been training for since the moment they first met. As Selene landed near the Nexus, the wind ceased its howling, leaving only a thick silence, as if even nature were holding its breath. The Nexus pulsed with energy, and Lena felt it humming beneath her skin. Her hand found Selene's scales without conscious thought, her fingers tracing patterns that spoke of their intertwined destinies. "We can do this," she whispered to the dragon, her voice a threat of defiance against the looming threat. Selene regarded her silently, a glimmer in her eyes that seemed almost human, a sign of understanding and hope. Lena's heart twisted, knowing that whatever battles lay ahead, they would face them together. But there was also an undercurrent of sorrow, a realization that this might be one of their last chances to truly be together before the world forced them apart once more. As if sensing Lena's thoughts, Selene turned her head slightly, her gaze locking onto Lena's face in a moment of profound intimacy. "Do not fear for me," she whispered telepathically, her breath warm against Lena's temple. "I will be with you always." Lena's eyes welled up with tears as the dragon lowered her muzzle gently to Lena's forehead, a tender gesture that sent shivers down her spine. It was a bond forged in fire and struggle, a connection beyond mere words, a promise of unyielding support and unspoken understanding. With one last look into each other's eyes, they turned towards the nexus, ready to face whatever awaited them. The path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but together they were stronger than any obstacle they had faced before. Lena knew that this moment would define them both, a pivotal point where their bond was tested against the tempest of fate. As Selene stepped forward, her wings spreading wide to shield them from the worst of what lay ahead, Lena felt a surge of pride and love. This was not just a journey, it was their story, one that would echo through time with every brave step they took together. The final line shone forth like a beacon, short and striking, a testament to their unbreakable spirit forward. The word forward lingered in the air long after it was written, a silent command that both spurred and comforted those present. It was the culmination of their journey, a path filled with hardship, uncertainty, and the indomitable human spirit. Each member of the group had brought something to the table: knowledge, strength, courage, and resilience. Now, with the line etched into the stone, they faced an uncertain future, yet they felt a palpable sense of unity. They stood at the entrance of a vast cavern, a threshold that seemed to pulse with the unknown. The only light came from the flickering flames of their torches, casting long shadows on the walls as they stretched out into the darkness beyond. Each person had turned to one another, their eyes reflecting the flames, and each hers resolve. They were a team now, bound not just by circumstance, but by a mutual understanding that the path forward was their only option. The first to break the silence was Melia, the expedition's medical officer. Her voice trembled slightly as she announced, "We're going to need supplies to last us for at least 2 weeks in these conditions." "We have more than enough," replied Alex, the lead explorer and logistics specialist. "I've been preparing rations and equipment based on our initial estimates of what we'll encounter." "Good," nodded Melia, "but we must also consider the unpredictable nature of this environment." Nodding in agreement, each member of the team began to mentally prepare themselves for the challenges ahead. They knew that every step would be crucial, every decision vital. There were no second chances once they set foot inside this cavern, a place where the lines between life and death blurred and every precaution was necessary. Illy, the geologist, examined a small outcrop near their entrance point. "This rock formation could give us clues about the terrain we'll face further in." "Agreed," said Alex, already consulting maps and schematics on his tablet. "Let's document everything we see here before moving deeper." They worked methodically, setting up cameras and collecting samples, documenting every detail that might prove crucial later. It was laborious but necessary work, each step taken with care to ensure that the team could adapt and overcome whatever lay ahead. As the hours passed, their initial apprehension slowly transformed into a grim determination. The first day ended under a makeshift shelter of blankets and sleeping bags, the air thick with a mixture of exhaustion and unease. "Tomorrow," said Alex as he flicked off the last light, "we continue." In the early morning, the group assembled once again by the entrance, now half an hour before sunrise. This time, they moved with a newfound sense of purpose, their steps more confident. Each member knew that while the day ahead might be fraught with peril, it was also an opportunity to test their limits and push themselves beyond what they thought possible. They advanced carefully, Alex in the lead, with Melia close behind checking for any immediate dangers. Illy and other members of the team fanned out slightly, gathering data and collecting samples as necessary. They moved in unison, a well-oiled machine honed by weeks of preparation and training. Hours turned into days. Their pace slowed but remained steady, each member pushing themselves through moments of doubt and fatigue. As the days wore on, they encountered increasingly complex challenges: narrow passageways that required acrobatic maneuvers, sections where visibility was reduced to mere inches due to dense fog, and even moments where the air seemed too thin to breathe easily. Yet, with each trial, their bond grew stronger. They learned to rely on one another not just for survival, but for encouragement and perseverance. The word forward began to weave its way into their daily conversations and actions, a mantra that carried them through the darkest of tunnels and the most daunting of caverns. Weeks passed until finally, on what seemed like an ordinary day deep within the cavern, something incredible happened. They found an opening, a small fissure that hinted at fresh air beyond. Excitement mingled with caution as they approached this discovery. After months underground, the possibility of reaching the surface was almost too much to bear. With renewed vigor and a collective heart full of hope, the team prepared for their final push toward freedom. As they squeezed through the narrow opening, each member felt a surge of emotion. They had done it. They had faced their fears, braved the unknown, and emerged stronger on the other side. Stepping out into the sunlight once more, they paused to take in the breathtaking landscape around them, vast expanse, stretching out under a brilliant blue sky. It was a moment to cherish, a testament to the indomitable spirit that had driven them forward day after day. And as they turned to look back at the cavern from which they had come, now shrouded in mist and mystery once more, each member of the team knew without a doubt that this journey had changed them forever. They had faced their deepest fears and emerged victorious. They were ready for whatever lay ahead, no matter where their path might lead next. With a final glance over their shoulder, they began to ascend, leaving behind not just the darkness, but also any hesitation or doubt that had once held them back. For in their hearts, they carried forward not just words, but a promise. No matter what challenges came next, they would face them together, drawing strength from each other and the belief that forward was the only way to go.